What if the monster you were afraid of as a kid was never just in your head? Parents use him to scare kids. Stories say he steals them. But who or what is the Bogeyman? He has no face, no real name, and yet he's everywhere. Every country has its version of him. Every child fears him, even without knowing why. He's the shadow in the closet, the shape behind the door, the chill that crawls up your back when the lights go out. Today we're uncovering the truth behind one of the most terrifying figures in human folklore, the Bogeyman. And let me warn you, this story goes way darker than just bedtime threats. Who or what is the Bogeyman? Let's start with the basics. You've probably heard the word Bogeyman growing up. Maybe your parents said something like, if you don't go to sleep, the Bogeyman will come and get you. It sounds like a throwaway scare tactic, right? But the Bogeyman isn't just a made-up creature with no history. In fact, he has a lot of history. Too much, maybe. Unlike Dracula or Frankenstein, the Bogeyman isn't a specific monster. He's an idea, a force, a presence. His shape changes depending on where you are in the world. But the fear, that's universal. He's not always a man either. Sometimes he's a beast, sometimes a spirit, sometimes just the darkness itself. What makes the Bogeyman terrifying isn't what he is. It's that he can be anything. Where did the Bogeyman come from? Okay, so here's where things get interesting. And a little creepy. The word Bogeyman likely comes from the Middle English word boga or bugge, meaning something frightening or a hobgoblin. And yes, this is the same root that gives us bug, like he is bugging me out. But this fear goes way back. Thousands of years back. Almost every culture has some kind of Bogeyman figure. And they all have one thing in common. They punish kids who misbehave. Let's take a quick tour of the world's nightmares, shall we? In Spain and Latin America, El Coco, or El Cucuy in some places, is a shadowy monster that hides under beds and inside closets. Parents say he watches from the dark and kidnaps children who don't sleep or follow rules. There is even a creepy lullaby. Duérmete niño, duérmete ya, que viene el coco y te levará. Go to sleep, child, go to sleep now, or the coco will come and take you away. Yeah, sweet dreams. In the Middle East, Baba Yaga. In Russian and Slavic folklore, Baba Yaga is a terrifying old witch who lives in a hut that stands on chicken legs. She doesn't just scare kids, she eats them. She's one part villain, one part nature spirit, and a full-time nightmare fuel. In the Netherlands, Zwarte Piet. Before he was turned into a holiday character, Zwarte Piet was known as a dark spirit who would punish naughty children by taking them away in a sack. Over time, this figure got absorbed into Christmas traditions. But the origin? Pure terror. In Germany, Der Schwarze Mann literally means the black man, a shadowy figure who waits in dark corners and punishes misbehaving children. Sound familiar? That's the Augie version of the Bogeyman. In the US, he's under the bed. In modern America, he's more of a vague threat. He's under the bed. He's in the closet. He's in the basement. But what he does, no one really knows. And that makes it worse. What makes the Bogeyman so powerful? The thing about the Bogeyman is, he doesn't need a face, or rules, or backstory. He lives in your mind, in your fears. He's the fear of the unknown. The fear of punishment. The fear of being alone in the dark and realizing you're not. That's why he works so well across every culture. He taps into something human. That childhood instinct that says, there's something behind me, I just know it. The Bogeyman evolves. In some cultures, the bogeyman has become more than just a monster. He's taken on social meaning. He becomes the symbol of discipline, the enforcer when parenting fails, a tool to make kids obey when logic doesn't work. But let's be honest, using fear to control kids, that's kind of messed up. Which brings us to a much darker question. The problem. What if the bogeyman was based on something real? Here's where we move from spooky to disturbing. What if the bogeyman wasn't just a story? What if these legends, passed down through hundreds of years, came from something real? In some historical cases, bogeymen were very real people, used as cautionary tales because of actual crimes. The real-life monsters. In 16th century France, a man named Gilles de Rais was accused of kidnapping and murdering children. His story blended into local folklore and became a bogeyman legend. In 19th century England, criminals used Spring-Heeled Jack, a tall demon-like man who attacked women, to terrify the public. Some think the bogeyman stories were ways to explain real disappearances, kids who went missing and were never found. So now the line between myth and reality gets blurry. Very blurry. Was the bogeyman just an excuse to deal with dark truths people didn't want to face? Or did he come after those truths as a way to never forget them? Exploration. Why are we still so obsessed with him? The world is a different place now. But the bogeyman never really went away. He's changed forms, popped up in books, movies, and video games. But the fear is the same. Think about all the pop culture versions of the bogeyman. Michael Myers in Halloween, a faceless silent figure who appears out of nowhere. The boogeyman in Sinister, a demon who haunts families and uses children as vessels. Slender Man, an internet-age bogeyman with no face, no voice, just vibes. Horrible vibes. Even John Wick was nicknamed the Boogeyman, but in a totally different way. There's even a 2023 movie called The Boogeyman, based on a Stephen King short story. Because even the king of horror knows this legend still works. But why? Because deep down, we all remember what it felt like to be a scared kid. That moment when the lights go off and your brain plays tricks on you. When the pile of clothes looks like a person. When the silence gets too quiet. The bogeyman lives in that moment. Climax. The scariest part isn't the monster. It's the imagination. Here's the twist. The bogeyman doesn't have to exist to be dangerous. The real horror is that he lives in your mind, and your imagination does the rest. You never really see him. You never really know what he wants. That's the trick. That's the genius of it. He's a blank canvas for fear. You can't fight him. You can't escape him. Because he's not real in the way a vampire or a zombie is real. He's an idea. And ideas don't die. So maybe the bogeyman isn't a monster hiding in your closet. Maybe he's the reason you check the closet. Maybe he's the part of you that's never fully convinced you're alone. Summary. Should we be afraid of the bogeyman? So, is the bogeyman real? Not in the way horror movies show him, but real enough to last through generations. Real enough to pop up in every corner of the world. Real enough to make people afraid of the dark without ever seeing a thing. Whether he's a myth, a metaphor, or something we've created to explain the unexplainable. He's here to stay. And maybe that's the scariest part. Because once you believe the bogeyman might be real, every shadow becomes a threat. Every creak in the floorboard becomes a warning. Every night becomes a question. Are you really alone? Or is he already in the room? You want fear. Tap the next video and prove the bogeyman isn't watching.